Hey everybody, Objectively Dan here. And I have a question for you. Have you ever welcomed somebody into your home that didn't share your Christian faith? Well, according to 2 John chapter 1, verses 9 through 11, it says, "You're not supposed to do that." Here's a quote I have here. It says, "Anyone who runs ahead and does not continue in the teaching of Christ does not have God. Whoever continues in the teaching has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not take them into your house or welcome them. Anyone who welcomes them shares in their wicked work." So apparently the whole fishers of men thing, I guess, just only applies outside the house. And if you're letting people like me into your house, you're doing wicked work, I guess. So maybe I'm getting this wrong. If so, you should definitely call into the show because we are starting right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Truth Wanted. I'm your host, Objectively Dan. This is the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time. We talk to people about what they believe and why. And if you'd like to call us, you can do that right now. It's the number 512-991-9242, or you can call through your computer at tiny.cc/call TW. And Truth Wanted is, of course, a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. This week, I have a special guest, just like every week. It's Richard Gilliver, everybody. Richie G in the house. What's going on, Richard?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very glad to be here. It's unusually late for me.
I was gonna say, Richard is not only sick, but it's like what, 1 a.m. What time is it right now?
It's 4 minutes past 1.
Jesus, oh my God! Listen, this dude decided to come onto the show at this hour because he must see something in it. So thank you so much, Richard. In case you guys don't know, Richard is producer of Talk Heathen. So if you like Talk Heathen and you like me being on Talk Heathen, that's because Richard decided I was allowed to be on Talk Heathen. So, and like the past couple of times on Talk Heathen too, I've had like these weird scheduling things that have come up. It was really funny. A couple of weeks ago, I can't remember if we talked about this on Truth Wanted, but I had like a family thing I forgot I had to go to, and it was Jimmy Jr. and Sidney Davis Jr., which is hilarious that they're both got a whole junior thing going on. But do you remember this, Richard? What was the joke? I think Jimmy was saying, the question this week should be like, why didn't Dan show up or whatever? And Sidney was just like, I just think he's an asshole. It was so funny because Jimmy did not know that Sidney was absolutely just kidding, and he was so concerned. And he messaged me later, and he was like, "Hey, just so you know, this happened." It's like, "Oh, that's so funny. That's actually the funniest thing in the world." So yeah, good times. But anyway, Richard, it's been a minute since you've been on Truth Wanted, my friend. How you been?
It has. I've been very, very well. As you said, I've been very busy with Talk Heathen. I'm glad to be here and just sit along and enjoy the ride and just be a guest.
Hell yeah!
Rather than having to do all the work and kind of the background stuff I generally do when Talk Heathen's airing. Whether I'm on there or not, I'm always in the background or somewhere doing things. So it's nice just to be along for the ride for once. And I've always loved Truth Wanted. I think I've seen every episode of Truth Wanted. In fact, I was pretty pissed off. Let me tell you a story I've never told before.
Oh shit! Okay.
So when Josh Entner, my very good friend, he was on Truth Wanted. And when he came on, Dan said, I can't believe you've seen every single episode of Truth Wanted. And really bigging Josh up for being on having seen every single episode of Truth Wanted. I was sat in the background. I was watching that episode thinking, I've seen every single episode.
Yeah,
I've been on the show twice, and Dan's never mentioned that.
You're right. And you know what? You're not the first, because I think there were comments that episode too. People saying, I've been listening since day one. I got a lot of day one fans out there. I got to remember that respect, because I don't think I've seen every episode. I definitely have not seen every single one that I haven't been on. So that means there are people out there who have seen more episodes of this show than I have, which to be fair, I tried to watch later and like see what has happened, but there's definitely been a time or two. Kelly's like pointing at himself too. Kelly's backup host tonight. Thank you, Kelly. And he's like, yeah, I've seen them all too. And I know he has, but that's, I'm just one of those people, Richard, where I'm just like, I can't believe people listen to me for anything I'd say, let alone for like an hour and a half show. So I just respect to everybody who likes my content. That it means a lot. It's very, very kind. But you know, Richard, you are doing a bunch of stuff here. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, Atheist Community of Austin is we're not a gigantic nonprofit. Like we're not like a mega corporation. I think we have it's like 3 or 4 full-time staff. It's mostly volunteers, including yourself. You're a volunteer producer, just as I'm a volunteer producer for Truth Wanted as well. So what's that like? Do you enjoy doing the producing stuff?
I do enjoy it. It's a lot of work. I spend a lot of time doing kind of. I spend some time. I tend to set aside a Tuesday for doing all the kind of boring statistical stuff that I do for the show, and then we re-record the after shows for Talk Heathen for Patreon. So I get those sent to me. We have a great guy, one of the crew members, Coley, is very kindly records them because it's beyond my technological ability to do anything like that. He records the shows and sends them to me. I then edit them if any editing's needed. It's usually just shortening a few gaps out, you know. They're on there in full, and then I upload them to Patreon. So I do that. I go onto the ACA's Facebook page, and whenever there are clips from Talk Heathen on, and people commenting, Christians commenting on those clips, I go on there and respond to those and try and encourage them to call the show. You know, I go through the YouTube comments, try and encourage people to call the show. So it's pretty time consuming, but I love it. I love doing it.
I'll be honest, he's a better producer than I am. He does way more. I'll put it out there.
Nonsense.
I used to do a lot, but when I was younger, I had more free time. Like I definitely did a lot more. And I think Katie does, I think Katie, our associate producer, does more work that I used to do now. So it's like it's not the same thing anymore. But hey, everybody always loves the work that Richard puts into the show. So thanks for doing that, Rich. If you like Talk Heathen and you think, wow, this show is really good, it's half the reasons because Richard's doing a lot of stuff. So thank you. And we do mean when we say thank you to the crew, because the crew is the folks that help really do the heavy lifting around here. So shout out to them. We'll do a crew cam in a bit here. But yeah, you've been producing now for like a year now, right? It's been about a year.
Yeah, just over a year. And it's like I say, I love doing it. I occasionally host the thing as well. I've got a full roster of hosts now. And it's the first time since I've started producing that I've had literally a full roster of hosts, meaning that if anyone goes sick or has time away or has family things done, secret family things.
It wasn't even like I think it was the way it was described too. It sounded like it was a family emergency. It was like, no, I just told my mom I was going to visit her. No, I think it was like, no, it was like my grandpa's birthday. It was like my grandpa's birthday, and I said I was going to come. That was it. That's the whole thing. But the way when you say, oh, I have a family thing I need to get to, it sounds so much more serious.
The thing is, you've just touched on this, that we are most of the people in the ACA are volunteers.
Yeah.
And, I've had to talk to a couple of the hosts for Talk Heathen before who've, they've not been able to do a show. They've had to pull out, and they've sent me a message apologizing. And I always said the same thing. I said, look, you're a volunteer. You've got a life. That comes first. You can't put the show before your own life, and you've got stuff to do, especially I'm old. My life's fucking nearly over. You're a young guy. You're just about to, you're near enough on getting married, or you've just got married, and you've got all this stuff to do in life. Go and enjoy life. I'm not going to begrudge anyone who has to pull out of an episode. I'll always find a willing guest to come on and fill a space. It's not a problem for me. I just want the people who are taking their time to make our shows the best that they can. And they really do. Our hosts are brilliant. They make the shows as good as they can be. You enjoy your lives as well, because this isn't the be all and end all of everything. I want you to do this because you enjoy doing it, not because you feel like you have to.
Look at this guy. Beautiful, beautiful. I appreciate that because I I think I skimp out on talk heathen stuff. I don't know what it's been recently. I have been pretty busy, like just got engaged this year and stuff, and I don't know, just a lot of stuff been happening. And it's like, if some people have asked you like, oh, have you ever thought about going full time? It's interesting because my partner actually has fully supported that idea, which is amazing, and I love her for that. But here's the thing: I now know what it takes. I know the work that it has to take to actually make it good. Like we're decent, but like there's even more stuff we could do, right? We're always talking about like, oh, we need to try to do this, we need to try to do that, and we try to manage with the resources that we have, and then think about doing all of the work that is already done by an organization like this, and it's just like me by myself. That stresses me out. I'll be honest. That's like I enjoy working with other people and collaborating to make something awesome because I think it's really good. We're not really we've never been about like one person. We've always had multiple hosts for all of our shows, which is really great. I mean, well, to be fair, Truth Wanted was just me for a long time, but then we brought up for other hosts, and other hosts have done a great job with it. So like I don't know, I appreciate that about the ACA, that it's always like, yeah, come if you want to. There's been times where people are like, oh, what happened to this host and stuff. It's like they just did other stuff. That's the answer most of the time. They just like want to move on, but or just get busy, because it's just like, I don't know. So it's like volunteering anywhere else. That's really what it is at the end of the day. But I do enjoy it. I think it's a great time. So.
Yeah,
Richard out here is a call to action here. He's trying to get other people to volunteer. I can see it. I can see it. He's like, come here, please come help do the things so that I don't have to be scrambling every week like he's always doing. I say scrambling, but
the thing is, I started. I Talk Heathen was, sorry, Dan, I've got to say this. Talk Heathen was always my favorite ACA show from the very beginning. I was always a great fan. I was kind of. I reached out to way back in the day to the volunteer coordinator at the time and asked if we could start a Facebook fan group for it. Mm-hmm. I was instrumental in getting the Facebook fan group off the ground like 4 years ago now. And, I've always been a huge fan of the show, and getting a chance to, first of all, host on there and then produce on there. I just have so much love and enthusiasm for that show. It's unbelievable. I've worked with, I've done stuff for Eric in the past on Talk Heathen and whatnot, but I got to work with him recently, and it's the first time really I'd got a chance to talk to him. We did a show together, and on something about morality, I think it was, and I actually got to hang out and talk with him for the first time, and I got to like really express my appreciation for the kind of legacy that I'd got the chance to take over, because I've not built Talk Heathen. It was there, and it was already in an entity I absolutely in love with when I joined it. I just had to take over the reins. That's all I did. And, we've got a great crew, great volunteers in the ACA. The hosts are brilliant. The newer hosts who've come on since I've taken over the show, really enthusiastic. Jimmy Jr., Sydney, our latest host, Scott Dickey, and, everybody who's come on board, and like the old guard, you and Christy Powell, everybody's so enthusiastic and so great at what they do that it really is I think it's at the pinnacle of what it has been. And I'm so proud of that.
Yeah, that's great. That's crazy. You call me the old guard too. That's so funny. Because I was the youngest host when I first started on Truth Wanted, and I think I'm still the youngest host at the ACA, which is very funny. But yeah, no, it's like you said, it's a great experience overall. I just enjoy working with the other people on it. Honestly, it's just a fun thing. I don't know. Also, just reading people's comments and stuff too, seeing other people react. Like, oh my god, the fact that people are donating all the time and like supporting the project. I don't know. It does makes me happy. Makes me feel like we're actually doing something. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. We could just make reaction content, or we could just like, I don't know, follow all the trends and stuff or whatever, be like a regular YouTube channel. But no, we kind of stuck to our guns, for better or worse, doing our thing with it. And I don't know. Apparently people like it. So we're going to keep doing it. That's the plan right now anyway. Although we did record some cool stuff of this past weekend. This past weekend was the back cruise, and we got some pre-recorded stuff that might be coming up in a bit. I don't know when. They haven't told me when, but I definitely recorded some stuff and I thought it was cool. So look forward to some extra content coming down the line. I don't know where it's going to be posted, but it'll be out there. We'll probably, promote it or say where it's going to be. But anyway, Richard, we have a couple of people who want to talk to us. But before we do that, we have to talk about the We Want the Truth segment, because every single week we want to read out the funniest comments that we get from you guys from our prompt. Last week, we asked you guys, if reincarnation were real, what would you come back as and why? So here are our top 3 answers for that. Number 3 is Serg Bastion 5, who said, if reincarnation were real, I would come back as a house cat. Best life ever. And that is true. That is a very, very good choice. As long as it's, a cool owner. Yeah, that sounds like a good life. I agree with that 100%. Number 2 comes from, were you going to say something, Richard?
No,
I looked away.
I'm just thinking, I've never had cats, but my best friend, she's got 3, and they are definitely, shall we say, blessed. They're definitely blessed when it comes to pampered lifestyles. So It just made me laugh, that comment.
I got 2 cats. Actually, I haven't talked about my cats a lot because Pico, my boy Pico used to be a prominent feature of the show, and then of course he passed away. And then my fiance has a cat, but we got another cat together. I haven't talked about him as much because at first he had a lot of issues. He came from well, actually we don't really know where he came from. He was a saved kitty at some point. His name is Lord Frieza. I don't know if I talked about Lord Frieza, but he is a special cat. Very photogenic too. I need to post more pictures of him. But anyway, he's got a good life. He's doing well. Let's go to our next answer. Number 2 comes from Miranda Rensberger, who said, if reincarnation were real, I would come back as a dragon because obviously, and yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's a great answer. Why not? What are the rules? Does it say you can't be stuff that doesn't exist in reincarnation? Because I don't know. Why not?
I think when we're talking about something that doesn't exist itself, I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, that's true. You know what? Good point. Good counterpoint. Our number 1 answer comes from James West, who said, if reincarnation were real, I would like to come back as someone who is good at the sex. Awesome. Very cool. It's never too late. It's never too late to learn. You're posting this on a YouTube video. That means you have internet access. There's probably resources out there that could help you with that. I'm not one of those resources, but good luck to you. I'm just, you can make that happen. Anyway.
Go watch some secular sexuality.
Yeah, go watch some secular sexuality. They could probably help you out. But yeah, so that's our questions this week. Thank you guys for your very funny answers. The prompt this week is going to be, if skeptics ran a fortune cookie factory, what fortune might one get? And I want to hear, Richard, you got a good answer for this? I bet you do.
I think, look, so you get things in fortune cookies like you are going to come into fortune, you're into money, things like that. Yeah. I think a skeptic's annotated version, that went wrong, didn't it? A skeptic's fortune cookie would read something like, you're going to keep your money because you're not going to be taken in by all the scams that come along trying to relieve you of it.
That's an interesting. My take on this was that I would just make a probabilistic, theories that don't really tell you a whole lot. Like, you're probably going to live tomorrow. That would be one of my fortunes, maybe. Or like, the sun will probably. I keep saying probably, but it's a good chance the sun will rise tomorrow. Like, it would just be like absolutely not helpful at all, but like still kind of true stuff. That'd be my fortune cookie factory. But anyway, leave your comment below. Let us know, if skeptics ran a fortune cookie factory, what fortune would one get? Leave them below. We'll read our top 3 for next week. But anyway, yeah, it's a good little bit. I like our question of the week segments. It's a really fun time for you. I do have to read a super chat real quick from David Haxor, member of 2 months gifted 5 Truth Wanted memberships. Thank you so much, David Haxor, for that. And you probably saw the animation earlier. If you do donate, we will put that on the screen for you. And then eventually I will read it. I may not read it as soon as it comes up on the screen because we're going to be like in the middle of a conversation or whatever. But that's a thing that's happening. But we have some callers. Richard, you want to talk to some people?
Absolutely. That's why we're here.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. But folks, before we get to the callers, you know what I'm going to say. You know what we do every single week. We give a shout out to the folks on Patreon. That's right. It's the patron of the week. And we want to give a shout out to everybody that donates.
Let's have a look at the patron of the week if we can find them. Are they on the screen? I can't see them. So, in lieu of the patron of the week, let's take a call. Rogue Show, South Carolina. Determinism versus free will. Rogue Show, how are you?
I'm having the determination to have this call. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good. Very good. What is it you want to talk about specifically regarding determinism versus free will? Because it's kind of a well-worn subject around these parts. So what's the specifics of what you want to talk about?
Of course, since I'm an atheist, and I'm an atheist and like some guy who likes talking to people. I would like to know what you think about the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got there's a couple of people in the ACA who have really solid opinions on kind of determinism who come from that perspective. People like Secular Rarity and J. Mike is another one. I'm not so sure. This is one of those questions that I think about a lot, and I'm not entirely sure where I stand on it. I would call myself a soft determinist. I think determinism, I don't think there's such a thing as a kind of free will in that you can do anything that you want. I think that's demonstrated very, very easily just through kind of what we're able to do in life. I think that we have this thing where we are bound by what has gone before. So the reason I call myself a soft determinist is because I think there is also always the probability that something can go more ways than one. So, often when we're talking about this, people will say, determinism means if you rewound time back to the very beginning of time and started it again, we would make our decisions in exactly the same way. Everything would play out as it should. But on the quantum level, and I'm not going to do a Deepak Chopra when I talk about the quantum, so don't panic, anyone. On the kind of quantum level, we get this thing called probability, which means that nothing is really set in stone. So I'm not sure, and this is where my problem lies, I'm not sure if we rewound time that those probabilities would play out exactly the same. And that's where I lie on it. It's not that I do think determinism is a thing. I think experiments have shown that it is a thing. I think that we're going to make the decisions that we're going to make. But I think it's on a probabilistic basis that we have no control of, by the way, but a probabilistic basis, so that in such a way that if we did rewind time back to the beginning of time, things might not play out exactly as they have now. That's my kind of rough take on that. What do you think about
that? I'm sorry. No. I need to track what you're saying real quick.
Okay.
So if
go on.
You're saying that you're saying you're a soft determinist because probabilistically. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. So if kind of what the argument that we get very often on this subject is that if we, I'm going to try and, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, I'm going to try and rephrase it in a way that might be better. If we rewound time back to the very beginning and started it over, everything would be the same. My problem with this kind of idea is that we have probability in the way things play out at the atomic level. And I think that, and we can see this is what a lot of quantum theories are based on, but that, I think, I think that to me suggests that there is some doubt in that things would play out in exactly the same way because of these probabilistic circumstances. So it's not like you're rewinding a videotape and just playing it over again. I think when this is described very often, that's how it's just kind of the way it's described. You're just rewinding a videotape, you're playing it over again, everything happens in exactly the same way. And I just don't think that we can say that's the case. Is that explaining it any better?
Yeah. They're saying because there's a probabilistic basis that it might or might not happen, that we can't say for sure that determinism exists, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it has no. I think from the kind of general standpoint of this conversation, my stance and hard determinism, there's very little difference between them. I think it's only when you get down to the kind of nitty gritty of the details of it that kind of my doubt, because it is a doubt, it's just me not being sure. And I think that's where it creeps in. What's your opinion on the thing? What's your kind of stance on it?
Yeah, first, like I was just trying to steel man your position, and
yeah,
secondly, secondly, like when I'm in the bed at 9 a.m., I'm a hard determinist, but also, I think the reason that we have probability in the first place is because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I think I would be a determinist because I do think that whatever is bound to happen is due to some sort of consequential action, or like just some occurrence in nature. Like for instance, someone has a methane leak in their basement. And someone is drunk driving. Now, the person who's drunk driving accidentally rams their car into someone's basement, and the car catches on fire, and because the leak is inflammable, the base is on fire, and therefore the house is on fire. The probability of that happening is very low, but it's based on a sequence. It's based on a sequence of events that were going to make that situation, going to make the house burn down, an inevitable thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for me it's very hard. It's a hard thing to discuss because whatever we're talking about this, whenever we're talking about determinism and probability and things like that, we're doing it from hindsight. So we're always talking about kind of things that have happened. So it's very hard to predict what's going to happen based on what we know. We're not supercomputers, unfortunately. And it'd be great if we were. It'd be great if we had all the probabilistic knowledge in the universe at our fingertips to work out decisions from, but that's unfortunately not the case. And I think, maybe if that was the case, I might look at it a little bit differently. Dan, what's your take on this?
Okay, sorry. Thanks for covering for me while I was having some issues here. It's great because one of our crew members also said they're having some issues, and I was like, oh shoot, America just got attacked. The internet infrastructure is down. Like, my brain just like kind of went into full apocalypse mode because that's how I live. But also, everything's fine and it looks like you got things taken care of from here. You're one of the best people to have on as a guest, Richard, because you know exactly what needs to happen whenever something like that happens. So it was great. Anyway, I had to get that out there. All right, so we're talking about determinism. We're talking about takes on determinism, yeah, there's when you do particular chemical reactions and we account for I don't know, if we're doing like pure elemental reactions and we know down to the the moles, right, how much of it we got. I mean, we're gonna have a frame of reference in which to predict stuff, and that's great. And for some reason there's some people that don't think that applies to humans, that like, oh, we're somehow special and we're outside of the physical world, but we aren't. We are a part of the physical world. Of course, we can't predict for everything, though. That's the thing. We're limited in our understandings. We build large language models today, right now, which we have a rough idea of what they're going to do, but we don't know exactly what they might say in other kinds of AI. Like, we're already doing that right now for bigger stuff, because it's every single AI that we talk to is ultimately made up of transistors and I don't it's electric signals, but it's going to be complex enough to where it's not going to matter regardless, right? Like, we're still not going to be able to have a full appreciation, at least on a human level. We use computers to help us predict things and do kinds of equations and stuff like that, but it's never going to be to a point where we're going to have an entire understanding of how the rest of our lives is going to play out. It's just, we don't have that kind of technology, and I don't even think it's even possible to do that, at least from our current limitations of what computer science tells us, right? We can't make simulations that fine of a detail. So, the point is determinism a thing? Are we all just molecules in motion? Yes, but don't worry about it, because you can still make choices every day, at least have the illusion of choices. That's all we've ever had. So, we can still work with that framework and still also understand that, yeah, we're absolutely just made of physical constructs. So there you go. That's my take.
Sure. What do you think about that?
Yeah. The conversation might not matter. It might not matter. Like, at the end of the day, like, we can't, like, we probably won't have enough technology to truly understand about a bunch of that stuff. I don't think it's a fun conversation. I think it's a fun conversation to have. I think it's especially among atheists to atheists.
Rogue Show, it freaks some spiritual people out, because I've had this conversation before, right? Where they're like, we have to have souls because, and we have to have something outside of ourselves, because otherwise, why does it matter? We're just molecules in motion. That's kind of a phrase that is used by like William Lane Craig and other Christian apologists and stuff. But like, that's the thing. We've always been molecules in motion. Like, the idea of souls came about from beings that are essentially molecules in motion, right? Think about that. There is something profound in that. All great works of literature, every great abstract concept or idea that's ever been created by a human has all been made by molecules in motion. And there's still something to be said about that we can have that ability to what we call be creative and look at the world in a deeper understanding. I don't think it stops us at all from having a deep connection with ourselves or others, or the earth or whatever. Like I think that there's plenty of room for admiration of the world in the universe, and you don't have to limit yourself just because it doesn't matter because we're all just made of molecules. Yeah, who cares? You know what else is made of molecules? You're the people who love you the most, and everything that you enjoy in life also pretty much. So hey, I say let's party, let's do it, let's have a good life. I try not to worry about it too much, but it does freak some people out. It is a hard thing to kind of get over when you think about that, when you think about the fact that your life is essentially the product of billions of years of stuff just moving around, just kind of on its own, just kind of doing stuff. So I don't know what to say to that other than cool. Sounds awesome.
I guess my last thought is I have a weird position where if the world's determined, I think it makes life more meaningful, at least to me, because it's fascinating that stuff is bound to happen pretty much, but you don't know what's going. At the same time, you don't know what's going to have to happen, and that's it. But you can guess. You can have certain predictions. You can guess. But at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen. But whatever happens, it is determined to, and it's fascinating, mind-blowing stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what makes some of our best decisions better, right? Because for example, we can know that smoking causes cancer. We know that because we live in a deterministic world and human beings are, broadly speaking, made up of the same kind of stuff. So we can see what kind of one kind of stuff interact with another kind of stuff and what that happens to our health and stuff, right? It's a great thing. It's a great thing that we're deterministic because we can have decisions that will benefit us in the long term. It's awesome. So there's definitely something to celebrate about that worldview that I don't think is often brought up, certainly not in most religious contexts.
Thanks for taking the time to talk with me, and I'll let you get to some other people.
Thanks, Rogue Show, appreciate it, and thank you for the topic. It does come up quite a bit. It hasn't come up on here in a little while, but it's worth revisiting. I think more and more people are exploring that idea nowadays. I think even outside of the religious debate, I see a lot more people talking about it in general online. Just because, hey, we have this new freedom of information and people are exploring ideas, and that's really cool. So that's something that kind of comes up because hey, what if we're just all matter? What do we do with that?
It's great. I think it's a great thing to think about as well. And I try and get away from the kind of the bong kind of thinking that often goes along with these kinds of subjects.
The bong kind of thinking? What?
Yeah, go and smoke in a joint behind the bike sheds kind of stuff.
That's what I thought you said. I just want to make sure. I want to make it clear for the listeners that you're saying the bong kind of thinking. All right.
Yeah. They're going and having a smoke and going, yeah, man, that's cool, and talking about it seriously. And this is something I've thought about, and it's something I've thought about a lot, and it's something this is why I'm not sure about it, because I've kind of looked at all the different arguments and all the different avenues where this goes, and it's just the long and the short of it is it's something I've not made my mind up on. I'm not convinced in either direction to a greater or lesser degree. So I'm still thinking about it, and I think it's very important that it's okay not to have an answer on these things, because you get, especially, and this is the benefit of, as the caller said, of having atheists talk to atheists. Very often you get theists trying to put their point forward, atheists trying to counter their point or put their point forward, and sometimes it gets lost in the mix that it's okay not to have a definitive position on something, and that's absolutely fine. There's lots people think that, and people like William Lane Craig go out and do this a lot. And there's atheists who do it from the other side as well, and they kind of assert that this is the position in philosophy. This is, and there is
in philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, motherfucker, do you know how big the tent is for fucking philosophy? Okay. You may have one definition out of like 26 in the Oxford, dictionary for philosophy, because like different people have thought about ideas differently. Like, I don't know, that's a huge pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, it is of mine as well.
This is how it's defined in philosophy. No, man. Okay. We're not physics. Okay. It's philosophy. It's different. Humanities, get over it. People have different takes, but anyway.
Yeah, there are lots of different opinions on lots of different subjects, and it's okay not to have a definitive answer. Yeah. It really, really is, and I think we need to put that out there more. That just because you see your fellow atheist or your fellow skeptic or your fellow religious person have this opinion, you don't have to share their opinion just because they're in your kind of bubble. It's fine to disagree.
Yeah, it's true. Because like determinism, for example, is not the same thing as physicalism, right? Or I mean, like there's also these big sort of differences in how we talk about this stuff that I think can drive some people crazy. But like most people aren't trained. I'm not trained formally in philosophy. It's like you got to meet people where they're at, and yeah, you can give them language to help them describe their ideas, but at the end of the day, not everyone's going to be an expert on this stuff either. So yeah, there's got to be some, I don't know. I'd rather talk about it in broad strokes than have a complete, refined definition for everything all the time, at least for my purposes. I don't know, because it's just not useful for most people.
If you're having a conversation with, I mean, my degree is in religion, philosophy, and ethics. It's more under the umbrella of religious studies, and sometimes I have these conversations with my peers, which are technical conversations. But that's few and far between. A lot of the time, I'm just trying to communicate these ideas with other people. Lay people like to think about them. Yeah, and it matters when you're writing a paper.
It matters when you're writing a paper. You got to cite, okay, this is the specific, that's fine. But like everyday stuff, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we're ranting at nobody here because nobody specifically did this. But I'm thinking of people I've talked to on like Discord and stuff. They're just like, oh my God, you're the most annoying debate me bro type. And you just make the place not fun. Anyway, I did cut out like right before we got to the patron of the week. So let's give a shout out to the patron of the week real quick. I want to give again, in case I didn't get this far, I don't know exactly how far I got, but I do want to give a shout out to everybody that donates on the Patreon. Everybody that donates is amazing and rocks and is super cool. So thank you to everybody that donates. But we always give a shout out to one person every single week. And this week's patron of the week is going to be Jesse Clark. Thank you so much, Jesse, and thank you so much to everybody that donates. You guys rock. Okay, great. Jesse is our patron. Sorry, got a little bit further than show than we usually do, but hey, it is what it is. And real quickly before we get to our next call, I just want to talk about the fact that we have new merchandise. If you haven't seen it yet for Truth Wanted, we kind of talked about it a little bit. If you go to tiny.cc/merchaca, we got some t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, hats, etc. You should definitely check that out. And real quickly too, I'm just going to go ahead and go to the crew cam, the crew that helps make this show happen every week, including when my internet suddenly dies for like 5 minutes. They're the ones that are really putting the work in for that. And after this next call, we'll tell you a bit about our brick fundraiser as well. But I want to go ahead and get to our next caller right now. So let's go ahead and do that. We have Gregory calling in from Texas. Gregory Peccary. Ooh, I like it. Gregory Peccary from Texas. You are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hello, Richard. Hello, Dan. It's a Frank Zappa reference. You're too young to know about that.
I know who Frank Zappa is. I wanted
to tell you.
Come on. I'm cultured.
Do you know Gregory Peccary?
No, I don't. I'll be honest with you.
Gregory Peccary? It's one of his albums.
Yeah. Okay. I know Frank Zappa exists. Okay. That's about as much as you'll get out of me. All right. But anyway.
It is National Beach Day. It is also National Tasted Marshmallow Day. But
Tasted?
sadly, it is also National Grief Awareness Day.
Oh. So you could be sad about your marshmallows.
Together, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I love that stuff. It's always just some organization somewhere that just says, "Hey, we're going to make this a day." We should do that at the ACA. We should have a fun day that we just say is a thing, and then maybe people will put it on their corporate calendars. I don't know. But anyway, Gregory Peccary, what do you got for us today?
I see every day on comments, tax the church.
Yep.
What a stupid thing to say. Are you kidding me?
Hot take.
All of theism would unite. It's like let's put a colony on Venus. It's like so unrealistic. Don't tax the church, tax a church. That's violating the Johnson Amendment.
I mean, there are churches in other countries that are taxed, though. You know, like it's not like it's completely unprecedented.
Well,
it's not like it's never been done before.
We're really not talking about other countries right now, are we?
Well, I'm just saying. Well, hold on, no, because like we advocate for all kinds of stuff that this country needs to have. Okay, I'm down for taxing churches. You kidding me? I'm 100% for it. I don't think the Johnson Amendment is doing.
Amish? Do you
Gregory,
want to tax the Amish, the Salvation Army, the
Gregory.
Native American church? You want to tax all churches in the U.S.? Really?
Hell yeah, let's do it. Because listen. I grew up in Waco, Texas, Gregory, and I know my experience is not exclusive. They're breaking the Johnson Amendment every damn week in this country. There's not enough resources for us to do, tax citations and tax fines on every single church that breaks the rules. I don't think that happens. I would rather have a national registry, and I get it. It's a pipe dream. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying we all see the revenue that comes in. And yeah, granted that this is also keeping in mind that many churches are very small and don't have like gigantic sources of revenue or are located in their communities. Okay, I totally get that too. It's more just it's more just a thing you say because you kind of agree with it in spirit, but I don't know how many people are seriously here's an organized system that we're gonna make to put people on like a registry in the U.S. to tax churches. It's very rare that I've actually met a person that's that serious about it, but I don't know, Gregory. I don't know.
Well, it just shows up so often in comments.
Yeah.
Tax the church, tax the church,
yeah.
Tax the church, and I think that's wrong thinking. We don't need to tax the church. We need to tax a church. That's violating. But the IRS is famously reluctant for going after those sons of bitches.
Yeah, 100%.
They let it's only happened a couple of times in U.S. history, in modern history. So don't tax the church. Just enforce the rules we have in place now. That's all I have to say.
Well, but that's what I'm saying though, right? Like that's the thing. Like it's only happened a couple times. Like it's not working, right? Like the system isn't working, right? We're people are violating it all. We get our panties in a wad here at the ACA. We get even close to endorsing candidates or stuff like that. Like we take that stuff very seriously because we actually care about the law and stuff, right? Like churches are not. They're getting away with it all the time. I don't know if the whole, we just need to, give them a fine if it gets too bad. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. But I don't know, Richard, you should chime in. What do you think?
That would be complicated. And I am kind of a student of church-state relationships. I'm a religion major, and I studied under one of the authorities on church-state relationships. So here's what might happen: a church speaks out for a specific candidate or a specific party. They're put on warning. They do it twice. They're put on another warning. They do it a third time. They lose their tax-exempt status for a year. If they repair themselves, then they are able to regain their tax-exempt status. And if they do it again, they're cut off forever. What do you think about that?
I think we already have so many businesses in this country that the IRS are trying to snuff out for white collar crime and stuff, that you get churches in there. I just don't see it happening. First of all, there's not enough narcs. Okay, there's not enough narcs for every church that's violating the law. I listen. If you're not, no local Christian that I know is going to be like, hey, my pastor's violating the Johnson Amendment. I need to send it. I'm sorry, it's the right thing to do. I got to report him to the IRS. It's not going to happen. It's like.
They broadcast it on the internet.
The big ones, Gregory, but not every single church is trying to think of Olstein or whatever, right? Like most churches are just small communities made up of a couple hundred people at best, right?
Yes, but those aren't the ones doing the harm, are they?
Well, why not? If they're violating the Johnson Amendment, aren't they not breaking the rules just like the big churches?
Shouldn't we go after the big ones before we go after the minnows?
Yeah, sure, but like I'm just saying, the law is the law, right? Like if you're just going after the big guys, it doesn't mean that you have to be consistent with these things, right? Like what's the cutoff? Oh, if there are 1,000 or more people, we got to get them, we got to report them. Like I don't know.
It ain't happening. At any rate, it ain't happening.
No, it's not.
It needs to be enforced.
It's not going to happen.
And how do we make that? How do we make that happen? I don't know.
No, I don't know either.
I simply don't know.
I don't know either. We run call-in shows. We run call-in shows until people change their mind. That's the solution. I don't. But I want to give Richard a chance to speak here. Richard, what do you think?
I'm not qualified to speak on this. I'm not in the same country as you are. I think, as far as I understand it, and my understanding may be flawed on this, one of the issues is around kind of filing, reports and stuff for your non-profit status and things, which a lot of churches aren't doing, and which they should be doing, and they're not doing. And I think Gregory's got a point in that, they're not being chased down. They're not being, it is too much effort for the IRS to go after every tiny little thing. Is that right? No, it's not right. In an ideal world, the people who aren't doing what they should be doing, should be made accountable for that. But we don't live in an ideal world. And I think just to throw the, tax the churches thing out there as a blanket statement is, we've got to be careful, because that would mean all non-profits get taxed as well. And,
True.
There are lots of non-profits out there, tiny non-profits who do the world of good for people in so many different areas, who, if they started getting taxed, would just simply have to stop doing what they're doing and stop helping people. And I think you've got to look at the overall picture. It's very attractive to shout tax the churches, from the rooftops. And I think if we could just take those churches, organizations, whether churches or not, any non-profit organization which isn't doing what they're doing that they should be doing to keep the non-profit status, then in an ideal world, we should be punishing them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just, and it's sad too, because you see, obviously, Church of Scientology, right? Like the Mormon Church, okay? Like a lot of them are they're big players. Like they're definitely taking advantage of that tax exempt status. So yeah, I'm with you there. Yeah, report them, do whatever, but we're never gonna get to a point in this country where we're gonna say, okay, everybody, submit your church to the government, and we're gonna make sure you got to file paperwork every year. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. Are you kidding me? No way. Not in America. Maybe in I don't know where Richard's at. I don't know. Maybe you could get together and form some sort of Magna Carta.
Well, Richard just made my point.
Yeah.
Richard just made my point so much more eloquently than I could. We have to pick and choose. If somebody's politicizing from the pulpit, they need to be cut off. If other churches are feeding the hungry and clothing the poor, we don't need to tax them. Okay, guys, thanks for your time. And Richard, thank you. You were the guy who supported me when I came online and said I was an atheist who joined a church, and I got a lot of shit for that. So thank you for your support.
No problem.
Gregory Peggery, thanks for calling in to the show. Appreciate it, and hope to hear from you again. And have a great rest of your weekend. Hot takes.
That was great. I thought it was going to be fisticuffs for a little while there between you and Gregory.
I know. No, I think we feel the same way. It's like, but you know, again, reminding people the reality is that, yeah, okay, you got the Olsteins of the world, you got the Kenneth Copelands of the world. Okay, yeah, but it's just not most churches. Most churches aren't mega churches, right? They're usually smaller, and they're usually supporting very small staff, probably similar to the size that we are at the Atheist Community of Austin, I imagine. I don't know the exact stats off the top of my head, but I do know that most of them are not mega churches. And so yeah, it's kind of hard, because what do? You go to tax grandma's church, you know, it doesn't look good. It wouldn't run well. There's no candidate on earth. You could have the most atheist candidate you've ever seen, and that they wouldn't even try to do that, I feel like. You know, and I don't know, it's just not good policy. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, these first two calls, I think, have been brilliant, because they've been on subjects where it shows that atheism isn't a monolith, and I think that's so important to get across. You know, because we have theists come into thing and you know, say in your atheist bubble, or intimate that all atheists think the same thing. I had a raging argument recently on Facebook with a fellow atheist, to the point where, and this is funny that I did this, and I'm a bit ashamed of myself for doing this, but it kind of said, at the end of the conversation, I don't think you're a real atheist. I think you're a theist who's pretending to be an atheist. So I said, Google me.
Damn.
And I'm kind of ashamed about that, but he clearly did, because he didn't come back with everything afterwards, and he realized it kind of you know, you can Google me.
Richard, he put his sunglasses on. He said, Google me. Dang, Richard, that's crazy. I wouldn't even do that.
I know, it's a bit cringy, but I thought it was I thought it was funny, because it did actually stop the conversation dead. But it's important. It really, really is important, all joking aside, to get this kind of idea out that atheism isn't a monolith.
No.
Skepticism isn't a monolith. You know, all these things that we're kind of labeled with, that doesn't mean we all have the same ideas. And both of calls that we've had so far have demonstrated that. I'm loving this. I love it when we can get into the nitty-gritty and pull stuff apart.
He's like, let's get some spicy clips going. That's what Richard's saying. No, I think you're right though. That's what makes the more interesting conversation, I feel like, and stuff that needs to happen. And yeah, like people do say, like, kind of tax the church just kind of mindlessly. And I don't know if those are the same people that are thinking like logistically how that works out. And maybe I'm wrong too. Maybe someone's like, actually, here, I came up with a system. This is how we're going to do it. And they present some sort of plan, and I'll be like, okay, I'm on board. But as of right now, I just don't see it happening. But yeah, if they're violating stuff, if they're doing, I don't know, violating those kinds of laws that they shouldn't be, sure, yeah, let's do it. Let's keep them accountable, folks. I'm about that. That's cool. We have a new member. Gave $4.99 who said, what Dan said about we're molecules in motion. Y'all got any resources up your sleeves for me to solidify this idea? Helps me take stuff less seriously. I'm going to bring that over to you, Richard. Do you have any resources about where molecules? I'm assuming, I guess, determinism, because like the phrase "we're molecules in motion," I'm pretty sure it's like a William Lane Craig thing.
I don't have any particular sources to hand. I would kind of look at the different ideas of determinism in philosophy, you know, and see the different viewpoints and different ideas on that. And also kind of there was some, John D. Barrow is a great guy. He's a science communicator, and he talks a lot about physics and things like that. He's wrote some great books. There's a book called The Book of Nothing, where he explores the idea of nothingness and how it's come from this kind of ex nihilo kind of God creating the universe all the way up to, like, as we understand it in physics now, in particle physics. So it's really, John D. Barrow's a great guy. He's actually a deist, but he's a brilliant science communicator. You know, go and read some kind of accessible, because they're not all accessible. There's a book called Quantum Physics written for dogs or something like that. It's something along that line, and it really simplifies the idea of particle physics and things. Go and look at these kind of written for layman resources, because they're really, really useful in understanding kind of some of these more complicated concepts that we have to deal with. But certainly just go and read. I love reading. I've always got an audiobooks. If you've ever seen my bookshelves, they're just packed with books. They really, really are packed with physical books.
But you can't just be like, oh, just go read, Rich. We got to tell people what books to read, because
there's so many great resources out there. And go and look at the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and kind of look at some of the different ideas. It's a great resource. You can type in the subject you want to get, and it'll tell you the different opinions. And then you can take that further if you get more interested in a particular person's take. Go and look at their particular work. There's some great resources out there, and that are written for the layperson.
Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is amazing. I think I said the Oxford of Encyclopedia earlier, and I meant to say Stanford. But yeah, the Stanford one is great, but also it can be overwhelming because you go to like one concept and it's like 26 pages long for just like one thing that you wouldn't think would be as complicated, but it's very good.
And that's what I think is so good about it, because it does people, like I said earlier, people do tend to, they'll watch a YouTube video and they'll be given this kind of dumbed down concept and think that there's only one opinion. Yeah. And in like reading stuff like that really does show like one article can go on for pages and pages, and it'll says X person thinks this and X person thinks this and X person disagrees with both of them. And it's a great introduction to philosophy. There's a book called Western Philosophy and Anthology by John Cottingham. It's one of my undergrad university books. On philosophy. That's a great book for kind of, it gives you an outline of what the philosophical idea is, and then it'll give you a reading from a paper that a philosopher's written, and it's like it's arranged in different subjects. So you'll have like morality, you'll have lots and lots of different things, and it's really, really well written, because you get this little introduction by the author. This is what this person thinks. This is the breakdown of his ideas. And then it'll literally give you the reading from what they wrote themselves. And it's very rare that you get that. Going out and buying all of Hume's books and going out and reading all of Plato, it can be exhausting. Yeah. So, get yourself an introduction. There's what's the other one? The History of Western Philosophy by Bertrand Russell. That's another great resource. Go and just look at these kind of books that are written for people who aren't experts in the field, and just get a general overview. And then if you find an idea that interests you, go and explore it further. Go and read the source material.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Those are all great points of advice. Thank you, Dr. Gilliver, for that.
I'm not quite a doctor yet.
What can we call you? Can we give you like a fake doctorate? What's something we can award? What can we legally call you that still implies a position of authority? Reverend Gilliver?
Reverend, yeah.
Reverend G. Thanks, Rev G. I like that. Okay, we'll stick with that. Anyway, real quickly, folks, I gotta talk to you guys about our awesome fundraiser that we're doing right now. We talked about this a little bit last weekend, if you're watching, but you may have saw earlier, it was early this year, and last year actually, we did this. We had a brick fundraiser that was really, really awesome and really, really successful. In fact, a lot of people actually got to see this last weekend from the back crews, all of the actual bricks that we laid down at the Atheist Community of Austin building with your messages on it from your donations. And it was such a great campaign. We decided we're going to do it again. We got a video that we'll put on screen to show you as well. But it's a really great opportunity to donate to the Atheist Community of Austin. Basically, you get to have an engraved brick, and you can put your name on there. You can also have whatever message you want on there. and it counts for your support for the Atheist Community of Austin. It'll always be there at the actual building. So go ahead and get one if you want to contribute and have your name or your message literally as a part of the foundations of the building. It's at tiny.cc/ACA-bricks, and it's a really, really cool way to help contribute. So thanks to everybody who has contributed so far. I think we have some pictures up on the Facebook group, right, Richard, of the bricks that we got so far? If we don't, we should, because it's really cool.
Yeah, I think there are some up there. It's great, and I obviously I wasn't in Texas. I didn't make the journey because it's too hot for me, and I'm a very, very cold-blooded person, and I would just simply melt in Texas. But I think watching the shows this last weekend and the clips showing the bricks just through watching the shows, it's amazing what the messages people have put, the support people have given. We really appreciate it. It has made a lot of difference. And if you want to get your name on those bricks, if you want to get a message on those bricks, there's another round of support you can do coming up. Get those bricks made.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get back to our callers now, though. We want to talk to Dan from Canada. Dan from Canada is back with us on Truth Wanted. Dan from Canada, how are you doing this week?
Dan, Reverend, I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. Good to hear from another Dan. Somebody, the last super chat, by the way, put my name as Daniel, which is not untrue, but I'm so used to not hearing that anymore. I usually just go by Dan, and that always throws me off. Are you a Daniel, Dan from Canada, that just goes by Dan as well? Is that your government name, Dan?
No, I'm only Daniel if I'm in big trouble or my mom's around.
That's it. Same, dude. Same. Absolutely. Respect like that. All right. So Dan, you're calling in. You're always calling in about these experiences you have, Dan. I have here from the call screen, you have 2 supernatural experiences that you want to talk about.
Yeah, it's not so much that I want to talk about the supernatural experience, but I would like a rational, thought-out explanation. And these were things that happened when I was much more involved in religion. So the explanations I got were it was the Holy Spirit or something along those lines.
All right. And they probably were.
Beginning to doubt that's the case.
Oh, okay. Oh, never mind. Okay, we don't think that was true. All right, no, that's fair. Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about it then. What were these experiences?
So, I'm sure a lot of people that are a modern age Christian had some similar experience, but there was I was at the youth camp, and we had been doing all the religious stuff throughout the week, and they had the altar call, and there was an emotional stirring, and I didn't really understand it, and I went through and I spoke to one of the leaders after, and there was a lot of euphoria, and some of it was the welcome to the club feeling, but like it was an unusual experience, not one that's really been replicated in a way for me. And I mean, yeah, the Christian answer was really simple, but
this was at a camp you went to? Like a youth group thing? Okay, I'll tell you what it was. Yeah. You ready for this? I already got the answer for you. You ever heard of love bombing?
I've heard the term, but I don't really know what it is.
Okay, so love bombing is a manipulative tactic that people use, particularly cults, right? Not saying that you were part of a cult, but it happens in group development, in group dynamics, where when you're first forming in part of a group, that the authority leaders or the people in charge of that group are giving excessive compliments or attention or affection to those that are involved. I used to work at a Christian camp, And I see that this can happen because suddenly you're a kid that's at this camp where you have adults looking at for you 24/7, right? For a whole week straight, just focusing on you and your good time and your experience. And that's a lot of attention that a lot of kids don't have all the time, depending on what kind of backgrounds you come from. And not only are you letting them have a good time, you're also telling them that they're loved, that the Lord of the universe loves them as well, and that they're super special, and that they're going to go to heaven, and everything's going to be great. And yeah, you're a sinner, but you're going to be redeemed, right? That's prime grounds for emotional euphoria. It doesn't just happen in Christianity. You can see this. You can see recordings of people who, the kind of rich folks that go to these kind of retreats, where they do these really high intensive activities and stuff, and then they kind of cry afterwards. Like, this is a thing that happens all the time in group dynamics, and it's just because of stress, and it's a stress relief. And then again, there's also a little bit of that manipulation that's involved. Now, manipulation doesn't necessarily mean it's conscious. I'm not saying that they're actively trying to manipulate the kids that have it in that camp. I don't think I was trying to actively manipulate kids when I was a counselor at a camp, but I think the techniques that are often used kind of lend themselves to that. It's sort of just a byproduct of that. So I can definitely see where you're in a group setting and that kind of emotional euphoria can happen, and absolutely can be explained through naturalistic means. I don't think you need to have any spiritual explanation there. So anyway, that's me just speaking off the dome. Right. Obviously, I wasn't there, but that's where my head goes. What do you think of that?
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, emotional manipulation is not necessarily like an intended evil thing, but it's it's tools that work with kids, I suppose.
Yeah. Like I said, it doesn't have to be intentional. Like, love bombing can be something that people do unconsciously, right? But it can definitely happen when you're in an environment like that. I can definitely see that to be the case.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's kind of a straightforward answer. That's what I was kind of asking for.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there you go. I mean, again, I can't speak to an experience that you had, like, however many years ago, right? But like, if you're wondering, hey, why does this happen? Why did this happen to me? It happened to lots of other people. That's not going to happen when you're just like, I don't know, at work with your coworkers, right? It's going to be in very specific circumstances. And it's not because they're more spiritually charged. It's just because, again, like especially when you're at a camp, right? The kids are doing, you're outside all day and you're doing stuff. And at the camp I worked at, it was at, we tried to challenge kids to do, overcome stuff, right? Like, they had to do team activities, and that can be frustrating because there's some group dynamics there. And then you're finally going through that, you're making lots of friends, and you feel like you're on top of the world. And that's why there's that Jesus high that we talked about too, where kids are like, oh, they're the most spiritual they've ever been for like the week that they're there. And then they go home and then they stop reading the Bible, and then they go over, well, we interpreted that in the Christian community as, oh, that's because you need to continue to walk in the faith. But really, it's just like, yeah, you were like outside for a week, and you're having fun, and that's why you're really happy. So I could definitely see that being the case for your situation, but that's just my take. Anyway, I've been speaking a lot here. Richard, do you have any thoughts?
Dan, are these because on the call screener's notes it says the supernatural experiences? Is it something that you would consider kind of supernatural, or is it just kind of, as Dan was talking about, this feeling of kind of euphoria, or is it kind of a euphoria? Are
you asking me, or are you asking the other Dan?
The caller,
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I said supernatural is just kind of a catch-all phrase. I mean, like, for a long time I considered it to be a holy experience that was involving a deity and myself personally.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of less inclined to believe that and more looking for answers these days that make some sense.
So was it a case of? I think what I'm trying to ask then is, was it a case of a feeling of euphoria that you attributed a divinity to, or was it something like an experience, like you might have in a ghost sighting, for example, where you feel that you've seen something that is supernatural?
I felt like the euphoria that I did feel that evening was brought on by the events of prayer and an emotional exchange between God and I. But
yeah,
I'm not sure your question, right?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I just wanted to kind of distinguish where we were going, where I wanted to go with this. And I think Dan's touched on a lot of it already, the kind of framing that is used in psychology. It's called framing, where you kind of come from a particular position. And obviously when you're in that state, when everybody else is believing that thing to be true, and you get caught up emotionally in that. We see this a lot in different religions. And there have even been, as one person who I've recently been interacting with, who shall remain nameless, but he's talked to every other host on every other call-in show in the history of the world, and not me. And I think there's some reluctance to talk to me because I've actually torn the papers apart he sent me. There's an idea that this people have been exploring called perennial philosophy, which is where they look at the similarities between different religious experiences from different cultures, and they take these ideas and they kind of say, like, this is the idea of there is a divinity that is beyond all of these cultural boundaries, all of these cultural aspects. But behind that is this idea that, you know, everybody in these different cultures has these experiences that they all come from different backgrounds, they all come from different framing, they all come from different experiences. And so, you know, and you can have one of these experiences, one of these euphoric experiences, by going to something as simple, I'm going to show my age now, by calling it a pop concert. You know, you can go to a music concert and have these experiences. I've personally, outside of meditation, which I've been doing a long, long time, I've had these euphoric experiences brought on by kind of framing an atmosphere twice in my life that I can remember. One was when I went to see the Dalai Lama speak. And I kind of had this euphoric expectation because of his status. It was nothing supernatural, and it was just the kind of anticipating of seeing somebody that famous. The other time was when I saw, you know, one of my favorite bands for the first time. And I'd got this built-up excitement because I was finally getting to see these people I'd admired for so long. And it was the same experience. It was the same experience for the holy person, the allegedly holy person, as it was for the popular culture artists, as it is in meditation.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, go on, Dan. Please
well,
go.
I was just thinking, like, you saw that, you know, that documentary from Hulu about WeWork, right? I mean, again, this happens in all kinds of contexts outside of religious contexts, right? Theranos, they always talk about how they partied and they made the people that work in there feel special and they were going to change the world and stuff, right? Like, and then they describe those feelings in retrospect as being euphoric, right? That definitely happens in lots of group settings, and Christianity definitely takes advantage of that. Again, just speaking as my experience as a camp counselor, I was a camp counselor at that camp for 2 years. And I was there for 13 weeks at a time. And I was worshiping two times a day, once in the morning, once at night, every day, except Saturdays it was only on the mornings. And then Sundays it was only in the evenings. Okay. So when you're doing it that long, I just saw how the sausage was made. You know, it's just like, it's definitely a manufactured process that people can engage in. And I don't think at the time I was actively trying to make some, and we talked about that too, I think, even at the camp. I don't think we wanted to make inauthentic experiences happen, but when you turn the lights off and the music gets real low and then the guy comes on stage, is like, hey, listen, I know you've been thinking about, you know, That's sin. I don't know. You got lust in your heart, you 16-year-old child who probably has a crush on a kid at school, like, yeah, okay. It's definitely a thing. It's a thing. It's definitely not spiritual. It's just people mess with other people, I guess. So there you go.
And that manipulation's found in different religions as well. You find it in all different religions. I'm very fortunate. I think I'm very fortunate. Other atheists and skeptics might disagree and think, well, why would you waste your time doing that? I'm very fortunate that I've been the guest at Buddhist monasteries and mosques and things. I visit them quite a lot. And yeah, I see this kind of this framing, this feeling of euphoria come out from people of different religious backgrounds all the time, and it is manipulation. On the kind of base level. Sometimes they're not aware that they're manipulating people. But that's essentially what it is. They're manipulating. It's a form of psychological manipulation, whether it's done intentionally or not. And it's just taking advantage of how our brains work and interact with the world. So yeah, there's nothing supernatural at all about it, but it can be an overwhelming experience. People attribute so much to these experiences to the point where they do start. It changes people. I've had friends who've been atheists who've converted to Islam. I've had friends who are atheists who've converted to Buddhism because of the strength of these experiences within them.
That's true.
And it's a thing. I think that's all there is to really say on it. It is a known psychological phenomena.
Yep, it's true. Now I'm just thinking about youth pastors just like doing corny stuff, like, "Hey kids, you seen that new Michael Bay Transformers? Well, how's Jesus transformed your life recently? You like the Avengers? Well, how about when God avenges you from your sins, from death? I don't know. I could do that all day. It's probably a fun thing that maybe I'll do later. But anyway, Dan, I think that's all the time we got for this call. But have we given you an answer you're satisfied with? Are you satisfied with your customer service today on the line with us?
Oh, don't worry. I'll rate you 5 stars on the company survey.
Thanks so much. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys. Those were good, solid answers.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Thanks for calling in. And thanks for sharing with that, because it's important when we talk about that stuff. Like, I feel like half of Christians in particular are Christians because they have moments like that, where, I don't know, they're in a group setting, they think they feel God. And I don't know. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, it's fine if you're not in a high control group, I guess. If you're in a high control group and people are taking advantage of you, yeah. But like at the same time, though, are you deluding yourself anyway? Which, I mean, you kind of are if you think that there's something else going on. But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough, Richard. But we got some other people that want to talk to us. You want to get at least one more, if not another call in?
Go for it. That's what we do. People, please call into the shows early. Please don't leave it to the last minute to call, because we want to give you the time you deserve. And when everybody piles in the last 20 minutes of the show, we can't do that.
That's when it usually happens too, right? But maybe we can get some. Maybe we can get some more than one person. I don't know. We'll get some. Oh, this is interesting. I don't know which one to take. You see Richard, right? You got Collins.
Yeah.
You seen that? Who do you want to take? I'll let you pick.
Shall we take Nee and change the kind of tone a little bit?
Let's go to Nee. Nee, you are live with us on Truth Wanted. Nee from Ohio, what's going on?
Not much. Prophet Dan, Reverend Richard.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm into it. I mess with it. Let's go, Nee. Let's go. What you got for us?
I've had a near-death experience. I'm still an atheist.
Cool. Awesome. Was it like, did you like see heaven or something? Did you hang out with Jesus? Like what was
what you could subjectively mistake to be heaven, because it's a full brain reset. So vision is upside down. So the guy that's at your shoulder, like, hey, are you okay? Are you okay? is now disembodied and flipped the other direction, floating in a haze because your eyes are dilated. Sound is unfiltered, so the rumbling through the floor and all the voices and everything. So you could mistake that for the choir of angels, this, that, and the other. Couldn't make out what the guy was saying to me, which was obviously something along the lines of, "Hey, dude, are you okay?" But in that moment, which happens at like the speed of dream as everything's resetting, it was like you were out for like 3 seconds and then your eyes shot open, snot shot out of your nose, and you sat up like the living dead. Okay, that checks out.
Yeah, I do find it funny because people talk about their obviously, near-death experiences are the most personal kind of experience you can possibly have, right? So it's like it's hard for me to like say anything one way or another. But like I will say, if I'm gonna have evidence of God or evidence of heaven or Jesus or whatever, I don't want it to be when my brain is at its least functioning. You know what I mean? Like I just want it to be fully conscious. If it's like broken, I don't think that's the best way to convey messages. But that seems to be how God does it sometimes. I don't know.
You're in that altered state, and then the people around you help you interpret what happened, and you can latch onto it or not. But
right,
like
that's how we got movies like Heaven is for Real.
Starting to come through. Yeah, like starting to come to is what I was describing. Prior to that happening, I had a brief precognitive vision, I'll call it, because I was technically not asleep. Because I do also have precognitive dreams, not necessarily go down that rabbit hole. I don't think that makes things deterministic. However, but yeah, I had a brief vision of standing up, looking around, see if the teacher had come to class yet, sitting back down, talking to the girl that I'd been having the conversation with in the next aisle, which is probably the most unbelievable part of the story. But and then all the coming to stuff happened with the dilated pupils and stuff. And it's like, nope, this was entirely secular.
Okay. But you still believe in the precognitive dreams?
I can't not. It's like coupled with the deja vu, like I'll have a dream, sometimes upwards of like 2 years in advance of like an exact camera angle, same words, same setting. And then like up to 2 years later, it'll actually happen. I don't have any useful application for it yet, unfortunately. Maybe I should start checking the lottery numbers or something. I feel
like that's happened to me. Nee, I feel like I've had dreams and then like a year or two later be like, oh, I feel like I had this experience in a dream one time. You ever had that, Richard?
Yeah. I've had that quite often. I think this is a much more interesting conversation.
Yeah,
than
I like that. I like the implication that we're all like in Minority Report and we can just like receive things with our dreams. That's pretty cool.
Right. I'm interested in how you know these Nee. I'm interested in how you kind of quantifying that these details from these dreams you've had.
Yeah, you have
are
a
the
journal?
Same details that you're experiencing 2 years later. Are you writing these dreams down as you're having them?
Some of them, yes, but like it'll be an exact flash. Like one of them was, and they're usually just something mundane because I'm usually sleep deprived in the moment that's being, we'll call it, sent back to the moment that I'm having the dream. But like one time I was driving north on I-15 in California, coming back from like Victorville or Chula Vista Mall to head back to Fort Irwin, California. And the dream / real version of things, I was driving. I didn't see who was in my passenger seat or in the back seat, but I was familiar with them, and I was running a role-playing game while driving and just having them do paper, rock, scissors tests for probably Hunter the Reckoning. That one was one of the ones I was running at the time. But like, no, 2 years prior, I'd dreamt the dream part of it, but I didn't know those two guys at the time. So when I had the dream, I didn't have the names to put, much less the faces to put with it. And I only got to see them out of the peripheral because I was driving anyway.
Okay. Well, I would say if you had like a dream journal where you would keeping track of this stuff, I would be more interested. I think that's what Mark Taylor did. You remember Mark Taylor, Richard? You know who that is?
I don't know.
That's the firefighter prophet. That's the guy that said they made a movie about him where he said that Donald Trump will become president in I don't think he explicitly said 2016, but they said that he would just be president one day. And he like after he was president, they made this movie. He was like, I had a dream about this, you know? So I don't know, maybe there's a lot of precogs out there that are doing stuff with this, but if you don't know when and where it's going to happen, it's not super useful.
It does make it more difficult. And I would definitely go down the route of, writing this stuff down. If you seriously believe this stuff to be true, go down the route of writing this stuff down. Personally, and I don't want to sound like I'm insulting you here, I think this is probably just a lot of misremembered things. Memory is notoriously bad. Even to the point where people can conjure up memories of going on holiday to places that they never actually went, and they can remember in great detail going on holiday. One of the great memory researchers, Dr. Julia Shaw, has recounted her own experience of this. She remembers going on holiday as a child. And the full experience of the holiday, and when she checked it with her parents, it never happened. It never happened. Human memory is really, really bad. I've been very fortunate of being in. Recently, I've been talking to Dr. Dean Burnett, he's a neuroscientist, and he did his doctorate on memory research, and I've been discussing things with him for a project I'm doing recently, and some of the stuff that memory is capable of falsely. Getting things wrong is amazing. It's really, really interesting stuff to go down the field of. I would suggest, if you genuinely believe this is true, make as detailed report as you can of these things that you think are precognition. Every tiny detail and check those details, because my kind of hunch here is that there's a lot of misremembering of details going off and kind of positive discrimination when you're having these experiences and you think, wow, that's it. That was from my dream, and that was from my dream, and that was from my dream. And you're kind of counting the hits and ignoring the misses.
I agree. And it's a lot of work, but think about this. I don't know if you're single, but how great would it be? Okay, you're at a party and you see a girl and you think she's cute, and you're like, hey girl, check this out. I wrote about you in my dream journal. Check this out. January 28th, 2018. I said that I'd meet you here. Hey, maybe it'll help. Or it'd probably freak him out, to be honest. I probably would not actually help your chances the more I think about it. But it's a fun party trick, I don't know. I don't know, Neat. We're just saying a lot of things here. What do you think? Neat, you still there? Hello? Hello, Neat. Give you one last chance here. All right. It still says you're on the line with us, Neat. I don't hear anything from you, but that's okay. I think we pretty much had our takes there. I don't know if there's much more to say, but dreams, the most reliable form of reporting, for sure. Absolutely. I'm all about it. You guys know this. I'm only saying this. Dreams are the best way to receive information, especially important information like how God is real, right? Like that's super, super cool. I appreciate that. But anyway, folks, we have an after show. If you're going to come to the after show and you're watching this live, you should go. It's going to be on the Discord. So the link to that is in the description, but it is tiny.cc/HD Discord. And I might pop in there as well. I know Richard says he's going to be there, that saint of a man, because it's like 2:30 in the morning, and he's, I'm going to do it. I know Kelly says he's going to be there, I think. So go to that in just a second. But before we do that, Richard, thank you so much for being on the show today with me, bud. Appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a great show as well. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me, Dan.
I've enjoyed it as well. I would say, where can people find you at? But I think we pretty much made that clear. You just got to go talk heathen. Talk Heathen's
If
where
you
it's
want
at,
to
right?
shill talk heathen again for me, that's absolutely fine. If
Oh,
you want
yeah?
to just mention it again,
I am a host of Talk Heathen, so it's chilling for me too on some level. Although I'm not the producer like you, okay? I don't get to make all the big shots. So
yeah.
But there you go, folks. I obviously like Richard a lot, and if you want to get in touch with him, it's very easy to do that. Just go to the Talk Heathen YouTube page and do the email on there, and you can get in touch with him if you need him. But hey, before we get going, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment or just engage with whatever podcast thing you're using. That really helps the show. We really appreciate it. I want to give a special shout out to Kelly as well for being our backup host tonight. Thanks so much, Kelly, for taking things over while my internet just decided it wasn't going to work for a little bit. The prompt this week is: if skeptics ran a fortune cookie factory, what fortune might one get? Please leave your comment below, and we'll see what our top 3 is next week. And I don't think we have any super chats left. No, we're good. We are ready to go here. Richard, you got any words of wisdom before
I
we
never
wrap
have
up
any
tonight's
words
show?
of wisdom. Don't
No
listen
words
to
of
me.
wisdom? No, come on. You must have at least a word.
I've
A
heard you
singular
say a
word of
couple of
wisdom?
wise things.
Yeah.
Go on the back cruise and buy a brick. They're my words of
The
wisdom.
back cruise just happened last weekend, Richard.
We'll go on the next back cruise and buy a
my
brick.
God. All right. Buy a brick. That's Richard's advice. Buy a brick. What you do with that brick, that's up to you and God. But, buy a brick. Thanks, everybody. This has been another episode of Truth Wanted. Remember to always keep wanting the truth. And I'll see you next time.
Watch the non-profits and join the hosts in the live chat. Visit tiny.cc/ytnp.